sometimes people, when they think about Tantra, they only think about certain positions like Tantric sex.
One really wonderful thing about tantric practices is that it not only includes sexuality, but it celebrates sexuality.
So, for people who are not familiar yet with Yoni massage, can you tell us what is Yoni massage and its significance within a tantric practices?
The body and pleasure it's this almost like this expressway to the divine.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sexology podcast. I am so excited to welcome Dr. Alexandria Saunders. Dr. Alexandria, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I am very excited about this conversation. We're doing a deep dive in tantric practices, and today we're going to talk about Yoni. Tell us, did you get interested in Tantra?
So I got interested in Tantra through yoga. I did a Shakti yoga teacher training program with Jasmine Rose out of Australia, and I absolutely loved it. And it's based in Tantra. So I then did a year-long teacher training program through Inner Camp. And with sex therapy, I really strongly aligned with the spiritual. And so aligning my values in life with my professional values and incorporating the spiritual with the sexual was really important for me. And it blended really beautifully into the practices.
I'm always very intrigued with tantric practices just because of one element of it is bringing spirituality to sexuality, which I feel it's a kind of like a space that's been misunderstood because sometimes people, when they think about Tantra, they only think about certain positions like Tantric sex. I know we're talking about specific skill today, but in previous episode, we also highlighted that just it's so much more than just a sexual skill or sexual experience. It's more holistic. So for people who are not familiar yet with Yoni massage, can you tell us what is Yoni massage and its significance within a tantric practices?
Yeah. So one really wonderful thing about tantric practices is that it not only includes sexuality, but it celebrates sexuality. And within Tantra, the body and pleasure it's this almost like this expressway to the divine. So yoni massage, when we use touch in such a reverent way with a partner or a professional, we have the possibility to open up to our own enlightenment, to awareness, to connect with ourself on a really deep level, with our partner on a deep level, energetically, with the divine. It's incorporating the sacred into touch. And as with the name Yoni massage, it incorporates the entire body. So it really is a holistic practice that includes touching every part of the body. There's really the only parts that are off limits are the parts that you're uncomfortable with or the parts that you don't really feel ready to explore. Other than that, you have the possibility to tap into pleasure and healing and connection and expansion with the entire body, including the genitals.
Such an interesting and important difference than what people think about when it comes to touching. What I'm intrigued when it comes to yoni massage, especially for vulva owners, like even if they have the most adventurous sexual experiences, they're just not comfortable with their vulva being seen, being tasted, being touched. And that gets in the way of them experiencing full pleasure. I see it every day in my practice. How do you help people with setting intention, getting comfortable in their body, if that is something that they feel ambivalent about?
Yes, most of us have ambivalence with our body and with our pleasure. And I'm in the camp that if you have a vulva, you have had trauma to it in some way. So sometimes it's that big, obvious trauma. And sometimes it's inserting a tampon before you are ready or going to the gynecologist, right? The way that the female body is designed is that we have to be turned on in order to receive and in order to take in. And not many people that I know are turned on at the doctor's office, right? And if we think about trauma in that way, that's not so big and not so obvious, but just trauma can be your body is sending you a signal and the signal is no, and that's ignored. Sometimes it's other people who are ignoring it. And oftentimes it's ourselves. We have been taught to disconnect from our body in such a way that we ignore our own no's and we aren't really familiar with our own yeses. So, one thing that Yoni massage can do is increase our awareness to our body, to what our no feels like, to what our yes feels like. And we start to listen to the signs that our body is sending us and really honor those signs so that we take in when we are fully ready and excited to take in.
So important. And I'm with you about like different traumatic, small t and big trauma that people experience around their vulva. Many of my clients, they even talk about the shame that they have as a successful woman in their 30s, 40s, and 50s about their vulva comes from the conversation they had with their peers when they were in middle school, saying that so and so genital was ugly, or like making fun of the girls with different types of labia. And like now, 30, 40 years later, they're just so scared to have their vulva be seen. And there's a huge vulnerability there. And I think that society also could, of course, like benefits from women's insecurity. So I think like doing something like a Yoni massage, it can be such a beautiful way of opposing against all of those messaging. So for people that they want to do it in a coupled experience, how can they create the safety and kind of that feeling of sacred around starting that practice?
So, I think the biggest thing with touch, with sex in general, that I work with a lot of couples to do is we have to detach from touch equals sex, right? So, for so many of us, when our partner approaches us with touch, we already have gone through the experience and we know there's an expectation coming. And so we have tension or we pull away from it. And touch is the original medicine. So if we can detach from anything goal oriented, because the brain is the biggest sex organ, right? So that's often what's getting in the way from us truly embodying our pleasure. And with yoni massage, there's really only two roles. There's a giver and there's a receiver. And receiving outside of sex is really hard for a lot of people. And so when we move into the body and pleasure and sex with another person, it's 10 times harder. And so I like to encourage couples to realize that you might not get to the end result, so to speak. So if people are familiar with the yoni massage, it includes the whole body. We're definitely including genitals. And sometimes that means penetration, usually with like fingers. And that might not be what happens with the first yoni massage. The first yoni massage might simply be connecting and receiving touch in a really sacred, beautiful way because you know that there's no expectation. And when you know that there's no expectation, there's no outcome that you're working toward, you can truly exhale and really embody the experience. And that is much harder than it sounds for a lot of people. Most of us haven't had the experience of a partner touching our genitals for 30 minutes, let's say, right? With tenderness and reverence and presence without feeling like we have to perform in some way. So it can be challenging, but I believe it's one of the most intimate practices that we can do with ourselves and especially with a partner.
Many of my female clients that they say, oh, I don't have no desire or I don't want to have sex. When we're like assigning the homework of not including touch, not including penetration or as quote unquote sex as part of the experience, and just have touch for pleasure of touch, they notice that, oh, this is something I like. You're right that the pressure piece is something that's can be very like painful and gets away from people feeling relaxed. Because as you said, that there's lots of anxiety of, am I aroused enough? Am I able to have penetration? If the penetration going to be painful or not? Because for many women, when their body is not ready, then the penetration part would be uncomfortable. So you're saying, what I'm hearing, it's a whole body massage that our partner and the person who's receiver, like doing in this kind of sacred way. Are there any tools, oils, things that you recommend people to incorporate or have in their environment to amplify the experience?
Yeah. The most relaxed environment is going to be the best, right? So making sure that we're comfortable, making sure that the way that the receiver is lying down, that they feel at ease. And maybe that means putting a pillow under their hips or something, right? Making sure that the giver is really comfortable as well, because they're going to be staying in one position for quite a long time. It could be, I like to say, let's work up to 60 minutes if you can, but maybe even starting with 30 minutes staying in a position. Now, we don't have to be perfect. We are human, right? So if a leg falls asleep or something, like we're with our partner, so we can be able to laugh and move and experiment with what feels the best. For tools, if you're giving to another person, I like to just use hands because there's so much energy and magic that can happen with touch and reclaiming touch as medicine and as connection. And also with touch, if I'm just using my hands, I can feel the pressure with my fingers, with my hands. But if I'm using a tool, for example, like a Yoni wand or something, like that tool now is adding the pressure, not my hands. And I feel like we can maybe add too much pressure, or we are not getting as pinpointed to the part of the body that we desire. So hands are best. Doing it with ourselves, obviously, I think a tool can be really great because we just can't reach deep into our body the way that a partner can with the angles of the way that they're sitting. Oil is great. Oil as much as you can. So make sure you have a towel under you or a waterproof blanket or something, because you want enough lubrication where you feel like the friction is nice. It's pleasant, right? It's not abrasive. So any kind of oil that, like almond oil, argan oil, even coconut oil, a lot of people love it. It's a little more controversial. I think there's some stuff out there about bacterial infections. Some people love it. You just have to figure out what's going to work for you. Olive oil works great in a pinch as well. And then the other thing for the giver, because your hands are your tools, please make sure that your hands are washed, that you are clean, that fingernails are trimmed and there's no sharp edges, because there's nothing that's going to ruin a yoni massage, right? A cut from a fingernail, something silly that we can prevent.
So many important points. And just even for sensual experience of that, I like using oil and also different temperature oil. You can like experiment with it and make it so exciting. And thank you for mentioning and reminding me that you can do it on your own. Because when I think about yoni massage, I often think about it in couples context. But what a beautiful gift that you can give to yourself. So if we are doing it, let's think about both sides. So if we're doing it with a partner, sometimes, especially in heterosexual cisgender couples, many people, like my male clients at least, they're very result focused. They say, oh, what are we going for? And I hear that there is no necessarily end goal in mind. But for people that they feel insecure about what to do, how do you recommend them to start, and how can we build enthusiasm from inside?
Yeah. I think it's a practice just like anything. Essentially, what we're doing is we're dismantling the way that we experience sensuality, sexuality, and connection, intimacy with another person, if we're doing it with another person, and really with ourselves as well. And we have a lot of baggage. We have a lot of lessons that we've learned, like you mentioned, about our bodies, about how they look, how they feel, how they smell, different things that we've been taught to be really self conscious of. And with a tantric massage in this way, we are exposed in a way that feels the most vulnerable because our intention is simply to receive. Nothing else has to happen. And the giver intention is to give and to give presence and reverence in that moment, right? So I find if you're able to connect in some way before, making sure that the room feels really comfortable, the temperature of the room feels really comfortable, the lighting is complementary. Don't do it in complete darkness because fingers can slip in ways that aren't going to feel really consensual and really good. And we want to make sure that we can gaze into our partner's eyes. And so a really great way to start is actually to sit just facing one another and eye gaze. Eye gazing can be almost harder, I think, for some people than actual touch. And so give yourself permission to play with it. Maybe it's touching foreheads and softly closing the eyes and connecting in some way. Maybe it's you place your hand on your partner's heart and they place their hand on yours, and then you cover their hand with yours. And maybe you try to sync up your breath, whereas you inhale, your partner is exhaling, and it's this flow of breath between the two of you. These are just some ways to initiate, right? The ritual. And so we have a beautiful way to start the ceremony, and then we close it in a really beautiful, meaningful way. And that way it feels contained, right? And it feels special. And it is a really special thing, right? So any way that we can gaze or use touch or breath to connect, even just 5 minutes is great. It's beautiful. And the giver throughout the process, we're using a lot of our imagination. So with touch, we're massaging the body. And in Tantra, we like to say we use the spiral principle, which is specifically for the female body, but I work with all kinds of bodies, and every single person has told me, oh no, this works for us too, right? We never go right for the goods. We got to start on the outside and we work our way in, and we can imagine with our hands, with touch, that we are moving energy through the body. And that is another way that a yoni massage is really elevated from going to the spa and getting a massage, is we're connecting with the energy. So it's not just physical.
I love that. And that makes it so much more delicious and exciting. That human element of it. I know people are scared of, oh, what if sex robots gonna take over the world or sex toys? But there is something about that interpersonal, heart to heart connection that makes sex so much more enjoyable and exciting for me at least, and I know many other people. So I love that you're saying that like the first lesson is not to focus on vulva, right? Start from like the other places and work yourself up. So when people are sometimes, as you said, going through like touching the vulva area, that can actually be create this overstimulation at times. So what are some of the kind of beginner friendly technique that you recommend people to increase sensitivity, but also get not necessarily overstimulate their partner?
Okay, so sensitivity. The first thing that I suggest anybody with genitals to do is practice cupping your own genitals. So if you're cupping your own genitals, usually what we notice with the cupping is our body does this like a kind of a sucking in, right? Like a moving away from the touch. And so what we want is we want a softening into the touch, into being held, because there's nothing that has to happen. So when you're doing this with a partner, even just simply placing one or both hands over the entire vulva, maybe one hand on the mound, one hand on the vulva, and just staying there without moving. Because what that's going to do is it's going to draw the receiver's awareness down into the yoni. And you can use your hands to do this as the giver. You can actually place your hands on the heart, for example, and then move down, sliding your hands down to the vulva. So we're sliding energy down. You can do this with the legs as well, starting with the thighs and sliding the energy inward, right? That spiral towards the yoni. And sensitivity, for a lot of us, we just aren't used to being touched with one part of our body without a goal, right? So if the giver is touching, let's say they're going to put their focus on the right outer labia. Once they reach the yoni, the focus is on the right outer labia. Stay there for a few minutes. Use your fingertips, use the pads of your fingers, massage that one area. Because as you work on that one specific area, you allow the receiver, all of their senses, everything to flood that area, right? And then they're going to feel more sensitive, and they might notice too more pleasure, more arousal happens that they weren't even aware of because nobody has probably spent 5 minutes on their right outer labia, right? And then they can move around the vulva. Just as we start on the outside of the body, we never go right for penetration. We never go right for the clitoris, right? So we're staying outside and we're taking really great care to massage the parts of the vulva that are often neglected during sex. And just that presence, that intentional presence with touch for a few moments, a few breaths, can absolutely increase sensitivity.
And the intentionality and the kind of like slowly moving to different steps, I think can be very valuable. Because sometimes I know for many people, it's like 0 to nothing, right? Like we're checked out until it's really built up and our body says no. But as you're talking about kind of spending different time and different parts of a uni, that can be very healing in a way, right? Because I think it's just, as you said, it's a way of communicating love and care and respect. So that's really helpful. And again, experimenting, just like it coming from the place of curiosity, like any other touches, is important because for different bodies, there's different kind of like experiences. I know, for example, with sensate focus exercises, which is something for people who are not familiar, is something we use to create connected touch with relationship. We don't communicate, right? We tell people like don't talk. With Yoni massage, is that something that you recommend people to communicate? How much do you recommend them to communicate?
Yes, communication can be tricky because we can border on performance, right? Very easily, right? Okay, I feel like I have to moan a certain way so my partner understands that's a good error. They need to keep doing this, or it's going to turn them on. So I have to do this. And yoni massage is very different because receiving is the intention, but we also want to awaken our voice. Like we talked about earlier with understanding what a yes feels like and what a no feels. And so we absolutely have to have permission to say, one of my favorite phrases is, "Ooh, my body is having a reaction to that." So instead of saying, "I don't like that, stop doing that, you're doing it wrong," it's, "I'm having a reaction to that." And that doesn't mean that the giver has to go away from that area entirely. If the receiver is having a reaction, sometimes just again cupping that one area without any movement, sometimes adding pressure, sometimes not, just restoring safety so the partner, the receiver, can soften into the experience again. So once we start moving internally, things get a little different. We have to pay attention a little more intentionally because we're not used to pinpointed pressure internally. So with external, while we're working with the vulva and the labia, don't shy away from saying no, right? But say no in a way that's true. That's not about performance. That's not about your partner doing anything wrong, because most likely we're reacting to something, some sort of trauma that happened in the past, not to how our partner is touching us right now. And all of our wounding happens in relationship to people, right? Most of our wounding happens in relationship to people. So healing can happen in relationship to people. And if our wounding, our trauma happened with touch, is a great way to heal. So giving permission for communication that is intentional, that takes ownership of what your experience is without putting it on the partner, is going to be crucial. And then as the giver, working on not taking it personally, right? It's not anything that I'm doing wrong. My partner's having a reaction and I desperately want my partner to feel safe. So I'm going to do everything I can in this moment to restore safety not by backing away fully, right? I'm going to meet them where they are and I'm going to allow touch to be medicine. And then I'm going to move on. And then we move on to another part and explore that and see what comes up.
I loved all of it. I think the part that you talked about phrasing it as my body has a reaction is very powerful and accurate, right? Because I think like I can see that for so many people, men and women and people of all genders, we had traumas and it gets stored in our bodies. And sometimes I know for myself even, like my mind is, oh hell yes, let's do all of it. And then in the moment, my body like creates discomfort or something feels uncomfortable. But because many women are people pleasers, it's just hard to communicate it, saying that, okay, I said yes to this, let me muscle through it. But with something like Yoni massage, I think it's beautiful because you have this path to really communicate because hopefully you're working on not pleasing your partner and not performing, which is really helpful. And I think when it goes to internal Yoni massage, as you said, it can be very tricky for people who feel unskilled, for the givers. What do you recommend them to look for, think about? How can they navigate their way?
Yeah. Internal, that moment that we're moving from the external internal, right? So always start with just one finger, one fingertip, and making sure that it's well oiled and well lubricated. And we want to work with our partner. So our partner is going to be paying attention, right? So we definitely want to say those words. Hey, how is your body doing? Would your body like to take me in right now? How would you feel if I entered my finger? And so then we give our partner the opportunity to enthusiastically say yes, or maybe they need to see, ooh, let's just stay outside for now. And that's okay. But let's say they do say yes. What we want to do is we place the fingertip right at the entrance of the yoni, the entrance of the vagina. So just with one fingertip at the entrance, we just hold it there, just at the entrance. We don't enter at all. Maybe we place a hand over the mound. I had a teacher call it the mound of Venus. And
I love
I
that.
love it. That's beautiful. Let's all call it that. So we place a hand over the mound of Venus and we have one finger at the entrance. And the receiver then just breathes, inhale and exhale. And you'll be able to tell, like the vagina will take in if it is ready with the breath, right? So with the finger at the entrance, and this is really beautiful because if you go really slow, the giver is going to feel the finger being accepted. And the receiver is going to feel that slow process where they're taking it in. And it usually happens with the breath. And so paying attention to the breath, allowing that finger to go in. And then once the finger's in, we don't want to go in very far. Just want to go in just a little bit, maybe that first joint in. And then yoni mapping is something that's really beautiful that we're not going to get into. The person that I like have learned it from afar is Bonnie Bliss, right? Australia they just have all the best people for yoni massage and yoni mapping and Shakti yoga and all these wonderful practices. And what we can do is we can imagine a clock, right? So if the top upper wall of that vagina, just a little bit in, is 12 o'clock, we just apply a little bit of pressure at the top. And then we allow our finger to move and we apply a little pressure to 3 o'clock, right? And then maybe 6 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock. And then maybe we're just going in circles a little bit. Maybe we can even go clockwise if we want. You can apply pressure simply by applying light pressure and ask the partner how that is. You can do light tapping, right? You can do rubbing back and forth. And once we have gone around that clock, that also has the possibility for the receiver to notice and have sensitivities awaken to just these little points within that little part of the vagina. And then if the body is willing and both of you are ready, more can be taken in. And maybe you go in a little bit more and you do the same thing. And so that's a way that you can allow different types of touch and explore. And this also can help with de-armoring, which we're not really going to talk about today, right? But this is a way to help release trauma and also awaken to more possibility of pleasure with using this really specific pressure pointed touch within the walls of the yoni.
Dr. Alexandria, one thing that you talked about, which was very interesting, that I often talk about this, like when your body is ready, you almost like have this sucking in energy versus that if it's like you're trying to push through it, right? If you're pushing and your body is not ready, then that's a sign, right? If you're pushing and such an intentional way of exploring things. And I like that they're like thinking about the clockwise and touches and using, as you said, different oils to make it more comfortable and like following your partner's body and your kind of like body to navigate it, which is really helpful. You talked about breath work. Is the how are we synchronizing the breath? What's the role of the breath in this stage?
Yeah. So when we're breathing, often what we're doing is like we're bringing in and the exhale is out, right? So I have talked with different yoni owners who have experienced both part of what I'm going to share, right? Often, if you have a yoni, if you inhale, you might feel like the something like being sucked in, right? And on the exhale, you can release. Typically, though, it's often the opposite, right? So we inhale and it's like we prepare, and then on the exhale, we'll feel this slide in and we feel a little more permission, right, to glide in. And so that's a way that we can sync the breath and also play with it because every body is different. I could tell you what 9 out of 10 yoni owners might experience, but your partner might be that 1 out of 10, right? So it's important to communicate and it's important to experiment. If you can give yourself permission to try different things and experiment, you're going to find, like you said, like this delicious way of touching and giving and receiving that works for you and your relationship. And that's going to be the most important piece. And breath is a way to ground us into the moment as well. If we feel like we're getting too heady, we can use our breath to soften into the moment. And touch and breath together is like chef's kiss.
I like that and bring that intentionality and mindfulness to it as a giver and as a receiver. For givers, sometimes I think it's very tough that when I'm doing the kind of like sensual touching, my mind also get distracted. It's very common for people to get distracted. How do you help people with staying present during the massage, whether it's a giver or receiver?
Yeah, touch is really powerful because if we allow our awareness to drop into where we are giving or receiving touch, that's a way to drop into the present moment, right? But sometimes our brain doesn't always cooperate. So we can say affirmations, we can even just repeat, I am here, I am now, or some sort of reverence, right? I am present, I am giving. This is beautiful. I'm here. And we tell ourselves that over and over again. Sometimes it's with scent, right? That might bring us into the moment. So, any way that you can use your senses, your thoughts, and again, play around here. Touch might work really well for some people, and other people might notice that their thought channel is just going wild. And so they might need to bring their awareness into one specific thought or one specific fragrance or whatever it is. Play around, and it might be helpful too with a couple dynamic, especially if we're already intimate and we're working on vulnerability and connection and healing and all the beautiful things that can happen. But just to have this pattern of saying, I'm here. So if you're moving on to a different part of the body, you can just say, I'm here. I'm here with you. And your partner can respond with, I'm here. And it's really powerful. And those words can be very emotional for people as well, because we're just simply not used to that level of presence. So that's one of my favorites. I'm here. And then bringing the awareness into the touch itself, using our imagination with energy, right? Can I play with moving energy throughout the body? Often in a yoni massage or tantric massage, people have this idea that we need to reach full body orgasm. And that's great. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes maybe that's even something that you want to work towards happening, right? That really only happens when we start playing with energy. So allow your imagination to be present and play with what is here between the two of you and see what you can shift.
That is helpful to keep in mind that being present and also where your body is today, right? Some days maybe you're able to have that full body orgasm, and some days it's just about being present and showing up for what's present in your body. And sometimes with our bodies, when we are showing up in this intimate ways, there could be unexpected sensation or strong emotion that shows up. How do you recommend people to navigate that? You talked about labeling it as a kind of like a more neutral way. Are there any suggestions that you have for couples when that happens?
Yeah. Yeah. If you've had just a regular massage, often you might have had this experience where maybe you have a knot in your shoulder and the massage therapist applies pressure and you have a reaction. Maybe it's laughing, maybe it's crying, maybe it's anger, right? You just have this urge to scream. You don't know where it came from, but you feel it and then it goes away, right? So our genitals, the yoni, holds on to tension, holds on to stress just the way that our shoulders do. So often it will happen. And the more you do this, you might notice more emotion arise. It's not something to shy away from. I think that's really important, is because presence can be healing. And especially if you're having a reaction because of trauma, if we can meet that trauma where it's at, we don't go past it, right? So if we have this wall up with touch, we might gently go right up to that wall and we stay there for a moment and then we move on to the next part of the body. We never go past it. And so it's really important for the receiver to notice what's happening and for the giver to, I want to say, not be scared, because the body holds on to so much. And certain parts of the body that are intended for pleasure might hold the most like aversion. A lot of yoni owners, direct stimulation to the clitoris doesn't feel good. We have to move right on the outside a little bit. It's same with G spot. With yoni massage, everybody's, oh, I want to get to the G spot. I want to see what can happen there. But some yoni owners have a very intense emotional reaction to that. So again, if we can let go of this goal, we have to get there and we have to try to achieve something, and just be with the experience and be with the experience for a few breaths and then move on, is really important. So not backing away completely, not pushing past that point, sitting with it, and then we move on. And if there is an emotion, soothing. Use touch to soothe. Place a hand on the heart, right? Allow the partner, with a yoni massage, if there is a big reaction, the receiver might automatically like put the hand down over the giver, right? Like to stop and just allow that hand to be there. Maybe place the other hand on top. And so this can be really therapeutic. There's really no rules. It's just about togetherness. Well, the only rule is not to have a goal, right? We're not trying to achieve anything. We're not performing anything. So we listen to our body and we start to tune into our partner's body and their signs and signals and check in. Give yourself permission. I think it's really important. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is an excellent conversation to have before, right? Before we even start the massage, acknowledge that there might be emotion come up, and what is the expectation? What would we like to try? And then we try it and we see if it works. If it doesn't, we try something else, and that's okay.
Also, I like that kind of not Dr. Alexandra. I think we got
I got
disconnected
it.
for a
I
second.
got it. Yeah.
Okay. Pete, edit that part. So what I've noticed with many people, like including myself, is like when we have this urge to quickly withdraw, it comes from a lack of trust, either to ourselves or to partner, that this is not gonna move forward, right? We're just like, I need to retrieve. But if we allow ourselves, give ourselves permission to stay there for a few minutes, I think that can be very healing. And having a way of communicating with partner, I think is really helpful. And as you mentioned, that there is no goal for Yoni massage. In heterosexual relationship, usually sex ends with ejaculation, right? But that's not like the goal here. Like the person can, the Yoni owner can have orgasm or not. How can people gradually bring the experience to close?
Yeah. So with touch, right? Especially if we're working internally, we don't want to just pull out and then be done, right? So we want to retreat the same way that we went in. And that's very tender, very gentle, working the way out. And almost this, you can like spiral in reverse, right? But I think a really beautiful way to close is the same way where we often start is with a hand on the heart, a hand on the heart, a hand on that mound of Venus, and connecting, bowing down, right? Allowing the receiver to just exhale and integrate the experience, which might take quite a while. It could take months, right, to integrate an experience like this. So I tell people like a yoni massage can be very arousing. If you get really aroused, let's not follow the arousal during the sacred time. Kind of sensate focus, right? Like we want to close this sacred time together. And then if one of us wants to release or we want to play, we say that and we have fun and we play together. That being said, sometimes during a yoni massage, we want to work towards something, right? A lot of yoni owners, I wonder if I can ejaculate, right? I wonder if I could work on full body orgasm. That usually always happens towards the end of the massage. So we're still giving all the time and attention to all the bits and pieces that need it and desire it and the reverence. And then we can play in a little more with more just like that pinpointed pressure and touch, right? And listening to what our partner is desiring and play. I think just give yourself permission to play. But again, that should probably be identified early on, right? Is this just going to be the massage? And then do we close it out? And then we talk about what we want to do afterward, right? Do we want to play in the space of let's just give a yoni massage and go about our day? Because we can certainly get in this habit where then we start to attach sex with a yoni massage. And we don't want that to happen. So we want to feel each other out, talk very clearly with one another with those intentions, and play. Like, I believe a yoni massage isn't like a one and done. It's not like this once in a lifetime thing, especially in relationship. Return to it over and over again, like you're going to church. Return to the reverence, to the divine that is held in that space, and try different things. But I like to start and end with that hand on the heart, cupping, just closing the energy down, breathing together. Hugging is beautiful. Some sort of embrace just to connect after the moment. And then we move on.
I love the intentionality that you invite people to bring to closing the experience. I think that's really important. And that's missing in many of the experiences and takes away the power at time. Dr. Alexandria, I can talk to you for hours. I learned myself a lot today. So for our listeners that they are curious about the offerings that you have, the teaching sessions, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at my website, alexandriasaunders.com. I have a contact link in there that gets to my email. I do have online courses, but I have specifically, they're not available. If somebody is interested in an online course that I've created, I really require that they work with me individually because the work that we're doing is really deep and I don't want to send anybody out into the middle of the ocean by themselves. Right. So I think that myself holding that space and helping guide is really important. So we're not going to the top of the steps right away, right? We're taking those baby steps and we're starting to feel ease and safety. So the best way to find me is my website, and to work with me is working with me one-on-one or within relationship. And I am currently like working on decolonizing my practice and moving away from the medicalized model of therapy. And so I'm working under the umbrella of coaching so I can work with anybody, any.
That is fantastic. I encourage our listeners to go check it out. And I can see that you bring so much thoughtfulness and care to your interaction that can make it very approachable for many people. Dr. Alexandria, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being so generous with your teaching, and hopefully we'll have you in our future episodes.
Thank you so much.